Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. With another bailout on the horizon as far as the IMF is concerned, we'll be talking about the overall economic situation at this time as we await the next general election. We'll also, of course, be talking about, as far as the caretaker setup is concerned, the way the steps taken by the caretaker government to stabilize the economy overall that we saw over the last couple of months. We'll be talking about that and what can we expect, of course, when the new government comes in as far as measures that perhaps will be continued. What long-term reform have we been awaiting and what long-term reforms does Pakistan really need when the new government comes in? What kind of a plan do we need? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr. Usman Mustafa, who's an economist. Thank you so much for being with us today. We also have with us Mehtab Haider, who is a senior journalist, and we'll also be joined by other guests during the course of the program. Dr. Usman, like I said, we have been talking about the economy for a while. We've been talking about the, of course, the precarious situation that we found ourselves in, and the damage control that was needed. And after that, we've seen the measures that we've seen the caretaker government take to stabilize things. We saw the crackdown on dollar. We also saw, of course, overall, as far as negotiations with IMF was concerned, all of that is in the past. What do you expect now? How are things first, in your opinion, at this time, as far as our economy is concerned? Let's talk about that.
I think we have passed the worst conditions. There was a lot of discussion that there will be a very serious issues about after the COVID and the international scenarios as the world economy is going is not in good shapes. Particularly we have faced we have get out of that phase, and fortunately and with the grace of all efforts and of course government's contribution is there, you can see the UN World Economic Situation Prospects report, which shows that in 2023 there will be a 2% growth rate, and the next year they are little bit higher at 2.4, and so that is the sign that there is some better things are going. There are so many other indicators which are not in good condition, like we have a very high inflation. It was a 39
do the statistics, in your opinion, show that that's likely to increase further?
It's depend upon this, but there are inflation. There are so many the reasons, there are so many criteria for that. If there will be we have a good crop, good season, we have rainfall, we have a boost in agriculture products and some other policies. In Pakistan, the major problem is the management. If you see, if we have a lot of resources, we have.
With a view to that, let's talk about the problems. I want to come to that. We also have with us Mehtab Haider, who's a senior journalist. Mehtab Saab, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Mehtab Saab, we're talking about the problems, of course, that as a country we face, on the economic front. But what is your opinion overall in terms of the measures that have been taken till now to stabilize the situation overall?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, the major issue was the derailment of the IMF program, which in the last government we were able to strike an agreement at the last moment. And it was a step which was in the right direction, because without IMF, there was a danger of default. So we avoided that default. And after the installation of the caretaker setup, it was another success of the caretaker government that they were also able to strike a staff-level agreement with the IMF. And now the IMF board is scheduled to take up the Pakistan's case on 11th of January in Washington. That was the first part on part of the government. But as the consequences of the IMF program, we had to administer the prices of utilities, and the prices of electricity and gas prices increased, which pushed up the inflationary pressure. Now, the second challenge is that there is a need to accomplish the political transition in Pakistan in smooth manner, And when the next government will come into power, the major challenge would be we will have to take another IMF program. We will have to restructure the debt, especially the external debt. So it would be a challenge to go for another IMF program, which should be in the range of 3 to 4 years period. So striking that kind of agreement with the IMF and as well as with the bilateral creditors, it would be the major challenge. Inflation is on higher side, but imagine if there will be no IMF program, what would have happened? It would be beyond imagination. The problem is, on one side, there is a higher inflation. On the other side, the growth, prospects of growth, which remained negative in the last financial year, although the last government claimed that it was provisionally on the positive side, but when the final figures came, it was proved that it was negative. So in this financial year,
we talk about as far as structural reforms are concerned, we are looking, of course, we're looking at those structural reforms happening in place at this time as far as FBR is concerned. Overall, do you think that this will be a continuation of the same policy? We need the continuation of the same policy largely on those fronts that we've been tackling, through the last couple of months. We're going to be looking at more of the same, or do you think there's going to be a change in approach overall?
Ma'am, actually, there will be one thing which will remain constant, and that would be the continuation of the IMF program. This existing standby arrangement program is going to expire in March, April. And when the next government will come into power, the first thing they will have to do, they will have to strike another IMF program. That is the constant thing. And on approach side, there's a need to improve the agriculture productivity. It will help to achieve higher growth, as well as it can help to reduce the inflationary pressures in Pakistan.
Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Usman Sahab here. Dr. Usman, again, I want to talk about the structural reforms. Of course, we've been talking about structural reforms for a while now. Do you think we're going to be looking at more? We are at this time, like I said, going through some of them as far as the FBR in particular is concerned. Do you think we need more? We will see more? How do you look at that?
Actually, this time, this government, because this is not a political government, they can take a lot of structural reform, because there is no, the political governments are not they are so dare to do that, because they have some political effect on that. So they can do a number of structural reforms. And in order to cope with the IMF, I think if you read as a journally, we should avoid as much as IMF or international. We have to develop some prudent policies like saving. We must have to utilize our own resources. That's I already like to talk about. This is all is mismanagement. So if you have a good system or prudent type of economics, then we can do without any. Why we have import of luxury item? Why still we have importing a number of 39% over our GDP is going for the payments of those? So I think this government should take some very strong decisions. And we have to avoid some type of luxury item. Why we are spending so many foreign exchange on those things, which we can produce. This is unfortunate that we are importing even agricultural product, food item from outside.
But isn't it going to take us a long time to move away from that, to become that kind of an independent economy, where we don't have to rely so much on exports?
Yeah, you see, why we are our export is not higher. Export, we are relying. Even our exports are based on import items also. So there is a need.
But I'm saying that as an economy, we have a very fragile economy. We also have an economy that is very dependent on these imports. For us to become independent.
Yeah, but that's we have how many years we are now independent. Before even in younger nations, they have already they are in developed. And they have not adopted. They have adopted already all those conditions and policies, will suit them
Let
for the
me
sustainability.
I think on the same front, I want to go to Mehtab Sahab on this. I think that you've raised a very relevant point. Mehtab Sahab, we talk about governments, we talk about the caretaker government versus a government that comes in after the general elections. In your opinion, do you think this government, of course, like Dr. Osman said, it can take a lot of those decisions, that perhaps a political government that has a political fallout is more vulnerable in that regard? Do you expect there to be more decisions in the next month now, so to speak?
Actually, the caretakers didn't have sufficient time to undertake the structural reforms. I expect them that they will do day-to-day affairs and they will implement the IMF program as much as it's possible for them. They should focus on conducting the free and fair elections in Pakistan, and they should accomplish their tenure and go back to home. The problem is that, we should talk realistically. In next 3 years, Pakistan will have to pay back $70 to $75 billion in terms of external debt repayments. And if we will count $5 to $6 billion of the current account deficit, it will come close to $100 billion. So we cannot print dollars. So it could be my wish as well that we should say goodbye to the IMF. But on the short-term basis or on the medium-term basis, I don't see it's feasible in case of Pakistan.
But that's what I'm saying. Isn't it very ambitious for us to say that, we want to say goodbye to IMF at this time? I think we're very far away from that goal.
Of course. So we should talk realistically that on the medium term, it's not possible. How much we can...
Of course, all parties want to say, promise, as far as the people are concerned. Of course, all parties aim, I'm sure. As of course all Pakistan wants to be free of IMF, but in terms of realistically speaking, we need a lot more in terms of the measures that we can take, a long road with sustainable economic, a sustainable economic plan, sustainable economic steps that will take us there. And it seems to be a long, arduous road. Isn't that true?
Of course, absolutely. You are absolutely right. We need sustained higher growth for next 3 to 5 years in the range of 6 to 7%, lowering the growth, and this kind of growth which cannot create imbalances. Imbalances mean higher current account deficit and higher deficit. So what happened in Pakistan? There is a boom-bust cycle. Why there is a boom-bust cycle? Because whenever we grow more than 5 to 6%, it creates imbalances. So we need structural reforms. Structural reforms means we will have to broaden our tax base. We will have to restructure the Federal Board of Revenue, which recently the SIFC also approved it. We will have to change the energy mix. We will have to reduce the cost of energy. We have to simplify the tax system. We will have to improve and place a system where we can attract as much as foreign direct investment. It should be hassle-free.
I want to come to foreign direct investments remains a goal to which all governments have alluded, and they've all talked about it. But the fact that it has to be something that is tangible, it actually happens. We haven't seen much of that. Let me come back to you, Dr. Osman. We talk about the SIFC also, the recent promulgation of the SIFC, and with a view to that, what we feel are goals that they can perhaps assist with, FDI of course being one of them. How effective is it in your opinion?
India has attracted a lot of FDIs. FDIs also depend on political situation also. If you political and economic stabilities are very much interrelated. If you, there should be, if there is some type of riot, there is some type of problem, nobody like to come. If they risk, everyone is risk averter. So FDI will come and attract even China. They have China development. One of the main reason is they attracted the international FDIs in their country, and that's happened. Same thing in other countries. The number of countries they are doing.
You're saying that if we have political stability, perhaps we can.
Yep. That first condition is the political stability. The other is the rule of laws. Of course, in your country you have the rule of laws. Then you have a robust tax system, fiscal system, a management system. As already I am emphasizing on the management. We have a very good, if you see the management has...
But why have so many governments successively failed in trying to, get us to that goal? Is it just that we don't have economic reform? Is it because there hasn't been, long-term policy? Is there lots of change of policy, short-term policy that is, there's no continuation? To what do you attribute this failure on the part of Pakistan? I wouldn't say it's one.
You see, we have a lot of mafias in our countries, land mafia. You can see we are not able to tax, we have never been able to get tax from the property or land mafias. This is a huge area. Still agriculture sector is lying, there are so many scope there we can have. Similarly, if you can have some type of these business, small commerce side is also vacant, there is no. So we have to focus new area and also good tax collection system.
Good tax collection system, and to be able to reach that goal, how do we get there in your opinion, when you yourself are saying there's so many mafias? And so political will is of course one important factor that has to be there in all governments.
Again, I not want to mention the name, but you can see the country, our neighbors, they have done that. The leadership is the one who can make a lot of changes in the systems. So we must have good leader.
Let me go to Mehtab Sahab. Mehtab Sahab, like I said, we've talked about this. We talk about having that kind of, getting tax net, getting this black grey economy into the tax net, ensuring all of that. But for that goal to actually translate, what are those tangibles? Political will is of course one important factor. But then again, for that you need a very strong government. Do you think that we'll be able to get that kind of a strong government in this election?
I cannot judge the outcome of the election, but one thing is very important, and that is the political will. We can achieve 100% consensus on anything, but a consensus among the major political parties on major issues.
So
for instance,
so in your opinion, when we say political will, it's not the political will of one particular political party. It has to be all political parties, and it has to be, again, we keep going back to that economic charter. We keep going back to the fact that all stakeholders perhaps have to come together for there to be a long-term sustainable solution to this kind of an economic crisis.
Of course, absolutely right. You have hit the nail. Actual problem is either we say it's charter of economy. I usually say charter of certainty. There should be rules of the game, and those rules of the game should be adhered by everyone. Not for one political person or for the political party. There should be a charter of certainty in Pakistan. That is the way forward. For instance, for broad, there are 3 to 4 steps which are essential. First of all, there should be a political will. Second, FBR should have autonomy. It should not be under the jurisdiction of the political masters. There should be a constitutional guarantee to the chairman FBR, either be separated into 2. And we should use technology. There is another solution. But the challenge is how to convert information or data into flexibility. That is the major challenge. And this is the challenge for the FBR, which they will have to cope with it because...
Do you think these structural reforms are going, paving the way for those changes?
Pardon?
Do you think these structural reforms are paving the way for those very changes that you are talking about?
Actually, we have read some stories. I've also covered it. But until and unless these changes are made public, we should wait. And I request the government that please, whatever changes the caretakers are proposing, it should be made public so that it should be debated and well thought out strategy should be implemented into the FBR. Because it's a matter of future of Pakistan. Without reforming the FBR, we cannot achieve any sustainable growth in the near future.
Mehtab Sahab, let me come back to you. Usman Sahab, we talk about political will. We talk about the fact that, you yourself said that this government perhaps doesn't have that kind of, stake, the kind of stake that, of course, an elected government has. But if we have all stakeholders sitting together and coming to, one agreement on the issue of economy, and one party does not benefit from, from the measures that the elected government takes, which we've seen in the past. Even the measures that, are sometimes good for the country are used as political fodder by the other, the opposition, so to speak. So when we have that kind of an agreement, perhaps then we can move forward towards long-term sustainable solutions.
Yeah, I think as we have a charter of democracy, we must have a charter of economy.
Do you think we will?
No, if we don't have them, we will be facing the same problem, which we have continuously facing. Because economy is not an issue of only myself or somebody only here. It is the whole economy, the whole people, whole nation. All those are suffering. If you see how the neighbor countries are developed, they have decision. They make some agreement. If you see China have make some 7 or 9 points with agenda points that we have to follow all those things.
We talk about this, we talk about, long-term solutions, we talk about political will, all of that. In terms of the political parties at this time, let's talk about the main political parties. Do you see this, this kind of political will? Do you see this the kind of sustainable economic plan in the manifestos?
Actually, no. I have seen even actually some of us even they are asked particularly they are planning. They want some type of sustainability. They ask us. Even I have some recommendation. I'm not name the name, but they like to have like a food security. They are considering that what should be the steps for the food security, because that's the issue which we are facing not this year but in the future also. And the changing environment, climate change. These are the issues. No, they are putting all those in their manifesto, and a number of all the main parties. They are considering these, and they are, I'm sure, they will consider those, because these are the important issues. Without that, they will not survive, and even the country will not survive.
Okay, let me go to Mehtab Sahab on this. Mehtab Sahab, do you see, when you look at the manifestos at this time, do you see, of course, it's, one of the major issues for all political parties is economy at this time. Do you see this reflected in the manifestos? Do you see those kind of, according to Dr. Usman, it is there as far as the main political parties are concerned? Of course, we see them talk about unemployment, we see them talk about inflation, we see them talk about price hike, all of those things. But do you see this reflected in the manifestos by and large?
Unfortunately not. And I expect that the major political parties which are contesting in elections, they should come up with clear-cut manifestos. It should not be based on the wish list. For instance, if one political party announced that they are going to give 300 units free electricity, it's impossible in case of Pakistan. So it should be realistic. It can be a wish list. It's good.
But we do expect there to be electioneering also. We do expect there to be politicking also. By and large, do you think that we are going towards, political party cognizant of the economic realities and, prepared, and as far as preparedness is concerned, when they walk into not only the elections, but even governance, even government, because we are 1 month away. And the issue of just elections or manifestos or, campaigning may be at the forefront, but then there's also the question of governance. And we look at the last government, when we talk about the PTI-led government, there was a lot that was said in terms of, the goals that were given out. And then there was, by and large, I think most people would agree, regardless of political affiliation, that there was disappointment in what was achieved. So would you say that there is that kind of preparedness in the political parties by and large?
Actually, that is the issue. They announced a manifesto that they will transform Pakistan. But what actually happened? It was a disaster. So here's the point lies. These political parties should come up with a manifesto which can be implemented or which are implementable so that people of Pakistan can judge their performance after 5 years. So these political parties, the mainstream parties, they should come up with a manifesto which they can implement in true letter and spirit. And as a journalist, we will judge them or we will judge their performance on the basis of that manifesto. But unfortunately, I don't see that the kind of challenge which they are going to face, whoever will win the election and come into the power, we will have to face the economic challenge. The economy.
Let me come back to you. Mehtab Sahab, do you think that there is that, that reality as far as economy is concerned? Do you think that the government, the political parties are at this time cognizant of the fact that they have to, Dr. Osman, that they have to change the economic landscape of Pakistan to be able to get the voters to, of course, not this election also, the next election after this, the general election a month from now, and also later on, the upcoming elections. At this time, do you think that the voter itself, they are cognizant of the fact that the voter is waiting for that change that we will need for there to be, economic growth, economic revival?
Unfortunately, our voters are not as vigilant or as I don't want to say they are so knowledge or they know the real thing. They always trap with the slogans which are not realistic. If you can see,
because it's not just, we can't just vote, as far as sympathies are concerned. Your sympathies with a political party, affiliations, your clannish affiliations, all of those things are on one side. You think our voter is going to go with somebody who they think it can change.
Yeah, that's what I want to try to say is reality is the voter, they just see some type of slogan, that like type of dream these politicians will fill. They are not looking reality is what they can do, and even you can see their history can show what they have done. You can see the political parties, what they have, they promise and what they deliver. So on that some type of criteria. I have seen on the, not on radio, I'm daily when I'm moving, I just switch on the radio, and there are very good type of awareness that what your leader is doing, this type. I really appreciate that type of, some type of campaign is on the road. But if that should be implemented, they should make the decision, because that is their future. And if you are not selecting the right person for right job, then there will be a we are again in this we call it in economics vicious cycle of poverty. The poor will remain poor, and they are expecting. That's no. You see, I'm not against the Benazir income support program, but it should be. But what's happening in Bangladesh? They are really giving the skill to catch the fish, and not just giving the fish. So we have to give them. There is a need. Some type of
empower the people.
Empowerment, so the skill,
technical
skill. We have the youth. Yeah, we have the 60–80% youth. They should be trained. We are sending unskilled labor out of the country. Why not we give them the little bit skill, and there will be a more productive value addition.
We also have with us Dr. Manzoor Ahmed, who is a former advisor WTO. Dr. Manzoor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Dr. Manzoor, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about the long sustainable steps, particularly about how important it is for the voter to be cognizant of what each political party is, giving out in their manifestos as far as economy is concerned, as far as the steps that they will take to put economy back on ground. Do you think that our political parties are, cognizant of that?
Sorry, repeat the last part. What do I think about what?
Do you think that our political parties know that their voter is going to be looking for something sustainable in terms of the goals, in terms of the measures that they will take to achieve economic growth in Pakistan?
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, that's normal, that they should think of their future and see which government can lead them. I mean, we've been through this difficult time for the last several years, and I think this is a very important question. But so far, I think the political parties have not really come up with some significant roadmap or something. So I'm hoping that that will come in the manifestos in the next 1 or 2 weeks.
Fair enough. But as far as the voter itself is concerned, there are two parts of this, right? The one part is that you think the voter is cognizant that they should be looking for these, and the second is, are political parties themselves aware that they also need to have those sustainable solutions? You think that, of course it's important that the voter itself elects people that they feel, political parties that they feel can bring about the changes that we need, instead of going for any other kind of affiliations or other sympathies or whatever one may call it for any particular political party?
You see, it's very difficult to give black and white answer, yes or no, because there is polarization, and there are political affiliations, and there are brotherhoodies, and there are all those kinds of things. But overall, there is a trend to take this economy and how it will change their lives. That is always, at the back of mind, and especially in urban areas. I think
but there's a very large part of the vote bank at this time is going to be that young voter that is going to be added to the vote bank. So that voter is going to be a deciding factor, or no?
No. You see, every single election, there is a big part young voter being added, and that is going to be the case this time as well. But what I'm saying is that in rural areas, it may not have that much of appeal. It could be the old system, it could be the brotherhood, it could be whichever party. But urban area is going to be a little bit, because they're more educated, etc. That would be more of this.
Do you think it's going to be? Do you think that the voter? Of course, the multitude of factors do exist, but how aware do you think? Do you think our voter today is more aware than perhaps we were during the last election?
Yes, I think so, because of social media. Although there's a lot of fake news, etc., but there's more awareness now than there was previously.
What do you expect? What do you expect in terms of, we are again looking at structural reforms at this time as far as the FPR is concerned? Do you expect the new government to go along on the same road, or do you expect perhaps a change in approach, change in policy overall? To an extent, of course, it's there whenever a new government comes in, but for long-term solution to the economy, do you expect more of the same?
I would think that this current caretakers have tried to put the country, have tried, if you look at specific factors, say privatization, say energy, say IT, I mean, they have tried to bring in some reforms and put the country on the right track. I think it will be relatively easier for the next government to come and adopt those and move on from there. And I don't think they would really like to reverse those things, because they, for example, look at energy. Some difficult decisions have been taken, so they can go along. It's much easier now to carry them rather than reverse them, because the other big factor will be that everyone knows that there has to be another IMF program. And they know that if they reverse any of these, it will be extremely difficult. We'll have the same situation as we had in the last 5 years, from beginning from 2018, when we were going for IMF program, and then this program always was a problem. and they realized that now the last, last installment, last IMF visit was very smooth. So they would like to go along with that rather than create any difficulties or that. So I think the governments will be mindful that they need to, do reforms
Dr. Manzoor, we talk about successive governments, we talk about, economic charter we've talked about for a while. But for there to be a long-term solution, is there any way, I mean, other than for all stakeholders sitting together and coming to some broad-based, agenda as far as economy is concerned and moving forward in that direction? Yes,
because we had similar situations for many other countries coming through in difficult times, and then getting out of those through certain reforms. One, for example, next door neighbor India, they had same situation 90s, 91, 92. They had to borrow from IMF, and they were almost going bankrupt. And then they changed their policies and, got out of problems. With Vietnam, you look at any country, they went through some part of their, maybe some had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, similar difficulties, but they eventually got over them. And so we can do the same thing. You see, currently, Pakistan's economy is very isolated. We are very closed, and if we open up trade in the region, and that I think our biggest problem is not having enough exports. But with the current policies, it's very difficult to have exports because these policies were tried by many countries 30, 40 years ago. They didn't work. They moved on. So Pakistan has to move on. And that is through, further liberalization, etc. That's what I think.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Manzoor. Thank you for your very valuable input. We will be moving on to Dr. Osman ji. Dr. Osman, again, what measures do you think, perhaps we should continue? Of course, we saw the crackdown on dollar also. There was, we've seen such a huge gap between the market rate and the bank, the bank rate overall as far as interbank, as far as dollar is concerned. So measures like those are of course very welcome as far as the caretaker government is is concerned, and also like the Facilitation Council, the SIFC, all of those are perhaps measures that you feel, or overall it looks like will be continued.
Yeah, I think there is no doubt about that. If you want to have we must have a sustainable and robust policies, and this government, particularly if you see last month, they have some check on the dollar rate also. These are some of the administrative and some type of the, you can say, structural reform or management issues they have done. If you really sustainability in those type of things, and we have a good control over those mafias, we can have. The other problem with our export particularly is we are not considering the quality. Quality is very important if you want to have the export. So where there must be some quality control measures, there should be some SOPs specific, but and as if we have seen in some other countries, I like to talk here about the planning itself is not the issue. We have the best plan. Even over 5-year plan was adopted by Korea, and they are, even Pakistan was lending some money to China historically. It's not so far, it's 60 and 62. So it means there are some ways where why we have lost those things. There is some type of political will, there is some mafias. If we can do at that time, why not we can do this time? So I am always optimistic. We have natural resources, we have human resources, we have environment. We have the deep water natural port, and we have sky-touching mountains.
For example, we also
30% of our land is not yet even surveyed. We don't know where it is. In no man. So lot of area, lot of everything. So it's really only direction needed. Some type of leadership.
And also continuation.
Of course, the policies should be continuous, and if you really want to eradicate this poverty and other issues, and we have to maintain some growth rate also. And that only be possible if you have a chartered of economy with all the politicians. So every politician, and one way another way, they are agree, they should be. I don't know, there is only need to just unite them. Somebody can say, and I think this, I am more optimistic, particularly this government can do, because they don't have any political agenda.
Right, fair enough. Ji, Mehtab Sahab, do you agree? You think that perhaps it will be easy to unite, so to speak, all political parties towards this one goal of, you know, economic growth, economic prosperity? Mehtab Sahab? I think there's a problem with audio. Again, you know, overall, let's you know, sum up over as far as political will is concerned, as far as overall political parties are concerned. If their manifestos are geared towards that kind of economic turnabout, and they feel that the voter is cognizant of it, then perhaps we will see change.
Yeah, I think this program is like a one step forward. We have not only like this, we must have so many other program, awareness, the media, that Mehtab is with the media and other which move, which motivate, which direct all those politicians that ultimately we have to move. It's not, it is necessary for everyone, every citizen of the country.
For example, when we talk about agriculture, you know, there's, you know, all political parties have from time to time agreed that perhaps it's a sector that needs more attention, it's a sector that needs more investment, the fact that we have a huge potential in it. But somehow we've not been able to garner that potential. We've not been able to achieve anything from it. So perhaps, you know, when we are at agreement by and large on the areas, the measures, then perhaps, you know, we can come to one table on those measures and move forward.
Very interesting what you are raising. This agriculture is an area where we don't need any foreign exchange. We don't need import. We don't need some special skill. In the same village, you can find one farmer is getting 40 or 80 kgs yield, a man yield, and the other farmer is only 20 man. So there is a clear, the only issue in that area is institutional. Institutional with regard to credit, institutional with regard to market, institution with the malpractices, institution with the fertilizer mafias. So there are so many mafias. If you really cut them, you can control them, you can have those things. There is no problem with that. And there is a lot of scope for that.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Osman Mustafa, thank you for joining us. Mehtab Haider Saab, thank you for being with us. Dr. Abid, Dr. Manzoor, thank you so much for joining us today. Overall, in terms of what we need as a solution to the economy, perhaps there's by and large agreement between all political parties. But the question is that the road is long and arduous, and what will get us there is perhaps long-term, sustainable, structural reforms that we keep talking about, perhaps political will, perhaps a secure Pakistan, you know, overall a friendly Pakistan. And all of those goals, perhaps we can realize if all political parties can work together in tandem, all stakeholders can work together towards that solution. And if they know that the voter is cognizant, and that's what the voter will be looking for when the voter actually goes, you and I go to vote. And perhaps those considerations should reign supreme over others. Thank you so much for joining us today on Buzz.